waiting.
Yeah, exactly. It's been... Woohoo! Hello! Welcome to Shine Centricals, and today we have Rachel from Be It On Your Head, and I can't wait to hear more about you. It's Chris Guts and Sue Bradley, and wow, so today Shine Centricals with this incredible artist, and we see some of your arts already behind us.
Thank you.
Welcome. So good to have you on here.
Thank you.
And yeah, the three of us, one day we went into Bunney, and that's where we saw exactly those little ladies and fall in love with the pottery and the poems. I know you don't call it poems, that are coming with them, the stories that are coming with them.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, well, I'm not quite sure where to start, so I might just start with the Bead on My Head series.
Please.
So that came from, and really the concept is around responsibility to yourself, others, and the environment. And I've always done female form work, and it's very stylized. I don't use images. It all comes from the heart. So the female form part is definitely just heart art. I did do a lot of work going to life drawing and exploring my own self, my own femininity. But then they just emerge. So those works emerge. The animal work and the Bead on My Head idea was definitely about responsibility. I started exploring more, I'm going to say, anatomically studied animals rather than anatomically correct.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah, it's very hard to get an exact 3-dimension from 2-dimensional images.
Good point.
Unless you can put your hands on something and really feel it, which sculpture is very much about. It's a very much a feeling thing. So that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to tap into my own experiences, my experiences with others, and my concerns about the environment, and put them all together into these hybridized works. And
And just one thing, I mean, we three got absolutely deeply touched in our heart, and it's I think what you just said as well, it's for you while you form them, obviously your hands are going over them, and you really connect to these animals and to these women, and there are always mudras included, like the way the women hold their hands is really important, the way they are sitting. It's just on so many levels. And when I sent you that message, I mean, it was just pouring out my heart about how incredible your work is, and where do you get the inspiration? Where do you get the story behind it? Or is it really, it is intuitively, but where is it coming from?
I think what happens is an animal can touch me in some way. So if I go, say with the powerful owl, I've had a couple of experiences here. An owl took one of my chickens once, a powerful owl.
Nice one.
And I know that there's, last time I looked in terms of research, there's only 2 breeding pairs in the Strickland State Forest. So powerful owls require a massive territorial space. So to have one come into my garden actually sighted is pretty privileged for me. And then I had one land on my clothesline at night time and let my dog out to go to the toilet. It was about midnight and it was just sitting on the clothesline. So there's an encounter. So quite often there's an encounter with the animal that I choose, and then I go into that space. I might do some research on the animal and find out about it. I'm doing one around the Gang cockatoo at the moment. I want to do a series of rainbirds, and they're all black cockatoos.
Whoa.
But I have to read about the bird. The bird I have not encountered the bird. So it's about the bird then rather than about me. So it sort of shifts. So some animals are focused on because it's about the animal, and then it becomes about what I want the animal to say. Others, they just come like a rabbit. My other dog passed away. Sorry. All my work touches me. It's really intense. It's very exhausting. But and the rabbit, she's holding nothing. She's nurturing nothing because it's gone. So, but the rabbit is such a symbol of life, of the we look at that through through rabbit representation at Easter, which is Eastress, which is, you know, there's a goddess around that, and she is death, but she's the bringer of new life. So the rabbit is then chosen. And also when I was doing the work, I needed a grief work, but I don't want to make it too sad, and I wanted it to be cute. I wanted to enjoy it. So, you know, sometimes it's whimsical, sometimes it's intense, sometimes I don't get it till later. And the turtle work I did because I encountered, and I have before off Heron Island, but I encountered a green sea turtle in Hawaii when I had the privilege of going there with my boyfriend's family. And but the total impact of her, I hadn't written anything for her, so you're right, I don't call it poetry, but it kind of is, but I call it prose. I do a lot of reading, but I would never consider myself a poet, but yeah, you're right, it kind of is. And then all this stuff around the seismic testing being potentially done off our coast has come up. And I know that turtles aren't a mammal that uses sonar, but they do get caught in the rigging of the equipment that they use, and they will be affected. So the turtle then became a platform to talk about the issues of plastics, plastic straws, plastic bottles, and also the relationship we have with these things, because, you know, we've gone through periods where we've well, on Heron Island, which is now a beautiful research station, but it was a turtle canning, soup canning facility.
Yes, true, I remember.
That's how it started.
Yes.
And so they practically got wiped out.
Yeah.
And now we love them because we go snorkeling with them. So it's like this relationship of eat them, love them, appreciate them, but at the same time we're abusing them by allowing our seas to be so polluted.
And we just chatted about it on our
way
way here.
That within our generation, we've seen that creation of plastic. When we
Yeah.
were children, there was glass, there was tin, there was no plastic bottles.
Yeah.
But in our generation, we've seen the creation of it, but also the change of moving away from it as well.
Yeah.
And we are part of that movement of
yeah.
bringing it away, which is really empowering and beautiful as well.
It is. I was at Avoca Markets the other day, and there's I forget the name of the people, but they're a smoothie. They make smoothies, and I thought they were plastic straws, and I said, "Oh, I'm good for a straw, thank you." And he said, "Actually, all our plastics are made from cornstarch,
Wow.
so they'll all dissolve."
Yeah.
So we had a discussion about that, and it's really it's just enriching to know that this stuff's happening. And you don't even realise it's happening. So
My husband just traveled to India, and there is now all plastic cutlery straws are by law forbidden. They no longer exist, and they were in the office wanting to cut a piece of cake, and they were standing there like, so what are we using now? Let's stick our fingers.
But that's when you get creative. Like
it
you carry
is.
your own things and you get creative.
And it was really interesting.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, so wow, okay, whoa, this is the world without plastic. Whoa, okay, welcome. We need to find alternatives.
Absolutely, yeah. So I get them from all different places, the inspiration, and I wanted to do at Lisdero here. There's been wetlands there since I can remember. I mean, I went to Lisdero High School when it first opened up, so I've been looking at that wetland since I was 12. And it's over 3 hectares. That's had to be, well, I shouldn't say had to be, but it's been destroyed. And the Melaleuca that lives there is on the biodiversity report stated as endangered. And I think there's up to 61 potentially endangered fauna species in that space as well. Yet, for the sake of whatever time and I can see the reasoning. The road it does get congested. But what are we doing? What's that for? Who's this earth really about? And we're not sharing it properly. So that's going to inspire some statement work to go to an event called Art at Work at Berkeley Vale in October. And if I do prose and statement around that, then people can see the work. They might get attracted to come and have a look at the work and then see what is written. And it's just about creating awareness.
It's creating that relationship and interaction and that heart, that feeling of wanting to make a difference and not get rid of this. Is it because of a road that's going to go through? Is that what's going through the wetland?
Yeah, the road's being widened. So both sides of the road. The
Oh,
Lisero High School side of the road, that wetland is rich. We used to go there for biology.
Wow.
And yeah, it's very wet. There's water. There's quite deep water.
And we need water.
We do need water. So that's another work that I'm looking at now. I wanted to do. So
Hang on, before we go into that.
Yeah.
Because what I love that it's also a lot inspired by where you're from, and the Central Coast is a really strong connection for you. To you, you have this really deep bond to the Central Coast. Have you been born here on the Central Coast, or were you when you moved here? And how long are you already here?
Yeah, we moved here from camp. My dad was in the Air Force.
Yeah.
We travelled a lot, so we lived in the States. We were in Sydney, then Melbourne. Lived in the States for 3.5 years.
Yeah.
In Oklahoma and Mississippi.
Wow.
So I have vague memories of that, but distinct ones because it was, it's quite impacting being in that culture, Southern cultures. We moved back to Canberra, and then we moved up here when I was 12.
Okay, and that's when you went to the Lisero.
So we went to primary school for a year here.
Yeah.
Valley View was brand new. Brand new.
Wow.
And then Lisero was brand new. So there was only 60 kids in my year.
Wow.
How many kids are there now?
Oh, no idea.
Yeah, it's so growing. It's
And that's the change. Like, I lived at Wyoming. I used to walk to Lisero High School via what we used to call the levels, which was all farmland and bushland, and it's all houses now.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So you've really seen that change.
I feel really old when I talk because it feels like that's
and
how
you are
and I'm not. Yeah, I'm not old, but I'm not young. It's just that there's been a lot of development here, and I do feel it's a shame that a lot of the development is sort of big block houses on, and limited garden space. It's all like.
But it doesn't really make it justice. We were talking about that with Jay Kassar as well. When we were talking about like this is such a beautiful land. If we have like really sustainable living here, if we would really make that step out and say no, this is who we are at the Central Coast. Because there are, I guess, a lot of people like you who feel with the land and see the change. I mean, like we said today with the plastic. It's like, whoa, how old am I that I've been part of that?
But it's important with that generational growth because you've seen it how it was, and all these amazing people in the community have seen it and have that heart, and then you're putting that onto us to have that care to your heart.
Yeah.
And I get that when I walked in the room, I had such an overwhelming sense of, connection to your art. And I think that's such a gift that you can give others to have that care for what you're standing for.
Opening the conversation.
And that's beautiful, and I feel privileged to be on this today because I think I sit in here and do my work, and
for everybody, we are literally sitting in your studio.
Yeah, you're literally sitting in my studio. This is like my cave, and I have until my work goes out and I actually talk to people, which isn't that often. I don't know what's going on once it leaves this space, and so it's enriching for me to feel that cycle, even just a little bit, gives me motivation to keep going and looking at that higher plane of thinking. And I think you implied earlier, there's a lot that goes into. There is so much thought, and look, I'm not saying no other artists, but they do. They definitely do. But there's so many levels of thought, the research, the work itself, and then thinking about what message these girls are meant to give, and sometimes sitting on it for ages, and not knowing I don't know what they're about sometimes. There's a kangaroo.
Really trusting it.
It is. There's a kangaroo piece that is up in Katoomba. The kangaroo is, she's at Gallery 188 in Katoomba, and they are huge supporters of my work. I'm so grateful to Victor and Sharon for their support. Let's plug that. They are, and that's what I need. And you need people who believe in you, because I don't. This is my work. This is what I do. So
that's, by the way. Do you want to continue on that kangaroo first?
Yeah.
Because then I would love to bring you back to your work.
Yeah. So what I was going to say with the kangaroo work, I didn't even connect with her until I had a dinner party here with a friend of mine who's gone dancing. She was invited to Corroboree in Central Australia with the women out there, and she came to a dinner arranging to have a dinner party in here,
Yeah.
and she came not that long ago. Yeah, it's rearranged.
Wow.
She came and she saw the kangaroo and she said, "Oh, she's like the Indigenous woman." Now I didn't see that. That wasn't my intention.
Yeah.
She's got her hands on her hips, like she's waiting for rain. Her name is Grey of the Plains, waiting for rain and looking because of the drought. But I didn't connect with her. I didn't even really know whether I liked her or not. It's the only work that I wasn't sure about.
Okay.
And when
you did it anyway.
yeah, I did it anyway because it just happened. So and then when Kate said that and she was talking about her in terms of that, I could see her.
Yeah.
And then she became Rain Dancer and
Wow.
Yeah.
I get
What
goosebumps
about, I
all
know
over.
how that can be channeled through someone else. So you
Yeah.
had that, but someone else had the intention.
I didn't know how to connect with her. She saw something and I was like, oh, now I see.
Beautiful.
And it was interesting because Sharon, who is the co-curator and owner at Gallery 188, they actually kept her up there because of that same reason. I didn't share that. The story hadn't been shared yet. Sharon saw it too. She said, but she's an Indigenous. She's strong Indigenous. And I hadn't seen that.
Yeah.
You know, so, and I'm sure other people mightn't see it, but that's what was seen. I'm like, that's her intention. So whether she's exactly that or that was what was meant to happen or whatever, it's beside the point. The intention becomes the message, the symbolism of who they are.
Yeah.
So when did you get the idea to centre the animal around the female body and that relationship? When did that start?
I've always done female form work or animal work. Like
you even did paintings, like drawings.
Yeah. But I would never call myself a painter, but I did go and learn to paint.
Yeah.
I went and I quite enjoy doing still life work. Because still life work, if you think about it, it's a similar perspective to three-dimensional sculpting work because you have to use your eyes in the same way.
True.
So I went and did that so that I would learn to apply my paint better. I'd never painted. Yeah, and also to learn about different brands of paints and things. That, so when I first, I don't even know what really happened. The octopus piece, which is in Katoomba as well, she's a very strong piece. She was the first one, and I didn't know that this is what was going to happen.
I'm curious to see.
Yeah, so I haven't written her story yet, but her story is one of perspective, and I was going through a period in my life where there was a lot of, I didn't know what the hell was going on, seriously. It was mostly personal relationship stuff, but I was like going nuts, and that feeling like something's just sucking at my brain, and and I was like, it feels like there's an octopus on my head, like just sucking at me.
Wow.
So it was really intense. So her positioning is like this, but so I was creating her, and then she's very grounded and stout and very ancient goddess-like in her positioning. I did some reading on octopus, and sounds a bit horrible, but the female octopus pretty much always devours the male after they mate. So I was like, what I was thinking was destructive maybe is actually very empowering. So maybe it's actually how you look at things. And what you think is destroying you is actually your power as well. So the story around her is one of perspective. It's all how you look at it. It's all part of you. Whatever's happening is meant to happen. It might feel disempowering, but it's actually going to feed your power. Not that I, want any ill harm to come to anyone, but it was about that, and it wasn't until I did the research that I'll plug again for it. I'm a big fan of Womankind magazine. And I've subscribed to that magazine, and I get a lot of inspiration. They guide, so even if it's not directly from the articles in that, they offer suggestions of readings and documentaries.
Beautiful.
And it sends me on a path. So, and then that might enhance my work or feed what I'm doing or give me an idea. So I'm reading a book called A Woman's Crusade, which is about suffragettes in America. The story of Alice Paul, who was, and I'd never really done any research, but and who knows, like I might read that, and that might I just read it, I don't actively seek out to do anything, but in a few years' time, something might come up and I might put those two ideas together.
Could be putting
just
you-
allow.
Yeah, an animal might raise its head in terms of being, you know, a real fighter and, you know, for its own self in and amongst the natural world. I might go, oh, this is a symbol of a suffragette, this animal, so then I might.
Yeah.
So who knows? That's how, to answer
Yeah.
your question, that's how it all comes together. And the octopus is where it started. And then I did the tawny frog mouth because I found, still sounding a bit weird, but anyway, I was driving along the road. It was going to be like, I just picked up my little dog from the boarding.
I have a suspicion. Yeah.
And it's early in the morning, and I was driving along the road, and there was a dead tawny on the side of the road, and I knew it had only just been hit. I came home, but it's going to be one of those 39-degree days, and I thought, I can't bear to leave it there.
Yeah.
So I drove back and got it, and put it in the fridge. I wrapped it up in clean garbage bags, put it in the fridge, and then so I could wait till later to give it a proper burial. And also, I took lots of photographs.
Wow.
So the story of that is, it's called Living Spirit, and even though the bird is obviously passed, the spirit of it lives on in that work, because that work is that tawny frog mouth.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was the second, and then I was like, okay, I might be onto something.
And how did you come up with adding the mudras?
Yeah, that was what I was.
Okay.
Glad you asked that.
Because not all of them have mudras, and the first ones don't. But I'm much into yoga. I do yoga a couple of times a week, and to be honest about it, I wasn't sure what do you do with their hands after a while. I was like, okay, well, I can position them in different ways, but I wanted them to be part of the story. So for the powerful owl, her right hand is in a power mudra, and her left hand blows away what's unnecessary. There's another one, I forget which one, but the mudra you hold might be this one. No, not that one. Oh yes, this one. So you only hold the mudra, which is a warning mudra, but in one hand you only do it. So this is actually the warning mudra. So
it is the warning mudra, okay.
It is actually the warning mudra, and the other one is and you only hold that in that one hand.
Yeah.
So
yes, you do.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So that's when I was like, oh, well, I'm using mudras anyway in my yogic practice. So my yogic practice is quite spiritual as well. So I just thought, okay, I can put their hand positions in the different mudras, and you don't necessarily know that when you look at them, but I feel like they must have extra spirit because of that. A lot of indigenous cultures, and I believe this too, believe inanimate objects have spirit. And I've noticed that with my students, when they put a face on something, it comes to life. And I've said, I also run, which is completely unrelated, but I run Happiness Dog Project workshops for women in the community. When they put the face on, it becomes something. And I know in say cultures like the Amish, they don't put faces on there because it does take a spirit.
Interesting.
Wow.
Interesting.
Yeah,
So
so
they purposefully
purposefully don't.
know
Purposely
power.
adding to it.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah. In fact, this week I've got a couple of girlfriends over to. I decided they also need. The work I've just finished also needs to be blessed in some way before she gets fired and finished. And so I've decided to start inviting a couple of women over to have a small. I don't know what that will look like or anything. I don't know what that will be like.
It'll just happen.
It'll just happen.
It will show.
Just to kind of send her on her way.
That's so beautiful.
She goes through.
Because I get a feeling that they all have this essence about them. That's why I think you get so emotional around your pieces, because they are alive.
Yeah.
They've got everything about them, the animal spirit, the woman spirit, and even just the gesture.
Yeah.
It's just, it brings it alive.
Yeah, which can be a bit freaky sometimes. Sometimes I swear I see them
Looking
move. And especially when I'm creating a face, I'm like this far, you need to have your eyes placed on you. I'm thinking, oh, I see.
But you could be putting, you just don't know with spirit, do you?
No,
Like, yeah,
no.
you don't.
But you know, it's and I also know your eyes can play tricks on you.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think for me, it's putting as much into them as possible, and that is why I feel emotionally attached to them as well. And if they go somewhere, if they find their home, I feel very connected to the person. I don't like for them to find a home where I don't know. Not that I'm, want to restrict that, but just if it's nice to know where they're going and why the person wants the piece. Yeah.
And we're talking about that, getting that feedback every now and then as well. Like, even that.
Yeah, exactly.
It's very special because with art, as an artist, you don't know all the time where it's going. When did you decide to walk this path full time? Because you did something very different before that.
Yes, yeah. I was a trauma counsellor, therapist for a good 15 years, and before that I worked with disadvantaged youth at juvenile justice and youth centres.
And that was all on the coast here as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I've worked with, yes, that was up at Penang, the juvenile justice, youth centres, Carry On Kincumber Youth Centres and Wyoming. And then I moved into counselling. I've got my original degree is actually agriculture. So
interesting, isn't that?
Yeah.
So you started close to nature.
Yeah.
And then you went close to humanity, and then you merged both.
Well, in a brief, the story there is that the agricultural degree I did was called Systems Agriculture. It was very philosophically based.
Oh wow.
Accident. Like, I was only 17 when I went to uni. Thank goodness it wasn't science based, because I'm not good at remembering details and facts.
Yeah.
But it was philosophically based. And at the same time, that was during the late 80s, land care was coming into play, trees on farms was coming into play, permaculture as a philosophy, not as a rigid guideline, but as a philosophy was coming into play.
What an interesting time.
Yeah, so I was involved in those things without really, with a lot of naivety, I have to say.
Yeah.
I was just young.
Yeah.
And just doing my thing.
But it was something that you felt drawn to.
Yeah, I love cows.
Yeah.
I really love cows, and I really still do. And people would
Do
say,
we have a cow?
no, well, I have my yak, so I'm going to do a series. I'm going to do a small series called Holy Cow. 6 weeks.
Love it.
But because as a culture, if you look at it, we've relied on, basically 3 animals for us: horses, cattle of some description, and dogs.
True. Now that it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, so cattle, or bovine, have been an integral part of human development.
Yeah.
And we don't give them anywhere near credit.
No.
The way we treat them.
Yeah, exactly.
In the worst
Exactly.
way.
So I'm thinking of doing that. But yeah, so my reasoning, people said, why did you do agriculture? It was simple as that. I just love cows. And I spent a lot of time with cattle, showing them, or in the dairy, wherever I could have closest contact.
Yeah.
They're beautiful animals. They've got such a heart. When you're with them, they just love being around.
Yeah, the sweetest. And look, I used to cop it a bit. There was a lot of backlash to farming, and I had no idea. And I still like. My argument was, well, I'm the one looking after them, so I know they're going to get milked, and we're using them for their product, but they're not going to get better care than with me. So it was just like, I didn't quite understand at that point in time where people were coming from. And I'm still not anti, it's just how we do something. It's like the live exports. It's all about how we do it, you know?
And what we do.
Yeah, exactly. So people don't see animals as spirit. They don't generally. They don't see, like, we go back to the wetland just quickly, they don't see trees as spirit. So when I see a pile of mulch on the side of the road, I see corpses, people don't see that, they just see it as mulch. So
that's your deep connection.
That's my deep connection,
to nature.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, absolutely.
To Mama Earth.
Animals have always been my thing. So I did that, and then I did a grad dip in adult education. So I was already in the animal field. And when I was doing my degree, I worked a lot with women in isolation and women in agriculture, self-esteem.
There is a lot.
Yeah. It's very isolating.
Very isolating.
And a tough business.
Absolutely.
Tough life.
Particularly the male as well, too. It's a lot.
Oh yeah, so onto that then. So I actually wrote a handbook on self-esteem for women in isolation.
Beautiful.
As part of my end work, thesis work.
Yeah.
And then also we got called in to set up support networks for farmers that were losing their farms, dairy farms on the far north coast when the quota systems shifted. So I was engaged to do that. So I was very much, I love cows. Then I was obviously very good with people.
Yeah.
It's a gift to be able to have that relationship with both nature and humans.
Yeah.
So maybe and as you're doing.
Yeah, brings them both together. Yeah. So that's how that emerged, and then I got into counselling and worked with. I've pretty much heard everything. The only group of people I haven't worked intensely with is refugees. So torture work, but pretty much everything else. Vietnam vets. A lot of stuff with domestic violence, child removal, sexual assault.
Wow.
Yeah. You pretty much name anything else. Stolen generation women I've worked with.
Wow.
Yeah, that was pretty much the end. I couldn't cope anymore after hearing that stuff.
Yeah.
Very brave, I know. I recognise my braveness, my courage to sit in the space, but the knowing not my life became very dark.
Yeah, of course. That's your day.
Well, that's all your day. I never would say at home when I got home, oh, I had a nice day at work, because I never heard nice stories.
No.
So my world became dark, and I had to give it up. I was very burnt out and had to give it up. I was
Thank
already.
you for for everybody who during that time was able to talk to you. I mean, what a gift.
Yeah.
What a gift and what a blessing you received.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely. So yeah, it was a lot. There's a lot of depth. I can actually name things. And my work, like The Powerful Owl, she comes from that place of those experiences. And now, so I'm just going to cut to the chase here, but so where I teach sculpture, so I still love working with people.
You do.
But the opposite thing is now, as a therapist, I had to walk into people's darkness and sit in there with them. Now I invite them into my light.
It's beautiful, yeah.
And I just read somewhere, light is not meant to go to the darkness is meant to come to the light.
Yeah. So it's beautiful.
But you had to go to that darkness
To
be able to bring the people.
Yeah. And you're right. I feel I wasn't happy. I was in a bad place afterwards. And I've been practicing this as part of my balance therapy for about. I've been doing this since about 2005, but not like this, not as intensely as this.
When did you decide to do it full time? When did you really resign from?
About 5 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah, because all that work was with stolen generation women through an Aboriginal service. I was already burnt out. I felt so privileged. That doesn't often happen, where Indigenous people will ask a white person to come in and listen to such intimacy. I was asked and invited in, and I just couldn't say no. It just wasn't right. So I pulled together and I just went and helped them through their work, what they needed from me, what I could give to them. And then that was like, I can't do it anymore. That was almost like, okay, that's close. I've given the biggest gift now. That's the gift. And I don't even, and counselling's a bit like this in the sense that you don't really know what happens. People only ring you when they've got a problem. So when they're happy, it's like, well, I don't really know.
I forgot about her.
But I have had people come up to me and say, and even people I don't even remember said something. So, but now it's this different. You know, if they can come to me, and people do come to my classes not because I refer them, but their therapist might have said you might want to do something creative or. And
that's what I tell all my clients. What are you doing creatively? Nothing. Start doing something.
Exactly.
Whatever.
And to see their faces when even if I've had to put my hands, one of my students had he's got developing Parkinson's. And I'm pretty sure he's got like some of his work at least 80, 85, 90% Rachel Bunney originals. But it didn't matter. It wasn't the point of it. The point is that, he was part of that, and he'd laugh about that too. But it was just having finished something that they love,
Creating that with their hands.
Yeah, exactly. And it is so handy, you mentioned that before, it's so tactile. Sometimes I challenge my students, and I know myself I'll be working without looking at it.
Yeah.
Because I've always thought I want people to want to touch them, even if they're not allowed.
They scream like, can you?
Yeah.
Can you? And you go in this awe moment of like, can I?
I know, you just want to touch them.
And you can, but it's, even
just
in
be careful.
in galleries, obviously they don't like it, but I want people, the intention was I want people to want to connect with them. I want them to be drawn to them, and the way to do that is to touch yourself, to make them tactile.
How long does it
you go first.
How long does it take to create? I know that they're all individual, but how long average to create?
Okay, so you're right. They're individual, and also there's been a development of there is. I wouldn't go so far as say formula, but there's a way. Like I know what will work and what won't work now. That's taken time. On average, it takes me for one of these works to be built to the point of needing to be fired. It's about 3 weeks.
Wow.
So it's not all day every day.
Yeah,
it's about
shorter than I thought.
It's about the work that I just finished is big, and she's taken me 6 weeks to build, and then they have to be. So it's about, I don't do more than about 3.5 intense hours a day.
Yeah, nice.
It's too much, to be honest. So I do other things, but like it's not like, oh, that's all she works all day. But I have other things
all
to
that
do.
inspiration. That's the
I
hands-on
do
work.
research, or I'm
That's
online,
it.
or I look after myself so
you
that
go
I
to
can
nature
do
and
it.
connect.
That's right.
Allow
That's
animals
right.
to find you.
That's right. So it's a very holistic process. But to answer that question, it's about 3 weeks for a medium build, a really big build that I haven't really done before, but she just took 6 weeks. Then they might take 2 to 3 weeks to dry, enough for me to put them through a kiln firing. So the Central Coast Potters are very kind. Karen Krebs, she organises all that for me. I pay for it, but she manages it, which is great. And so they're in there for about 4 or 5 days. That's how long it takes to heat up, and then also to cool right down so I can handle them. Then the painting process is probably another week.
That process is as well. That's
so
interesting.
I give, when someone asks for a commission, I would say is at least an 8-week turnaround.
Okay.
Yeah, from research.
And that's you full on focusing on that.
And how do you work with a person that approaches you? Do you get to know the person, and then how do you see the animal vision come through? Do they give a suggestion of what?
I haven't had a commission for one of these yet. These are they've only recently been launched, so it's really only March that they've come out in the world. But but I have been asked to do works, and commissions are always difficult because there's another extra pressure when someone. But I always say to people, well, if you don't like it, you don't have to have it. Someone else will connect with it. But to go with what you're saying, yes, I would actually want to not only talk to that person, but actually go into their world. I have in the past asked to go into the space where they want to place the work. So if it's a garden piece, these aren't. I wouldn't put these pieces in the garden only because they're reasonably expensive. But if someone said, look, I just want a piece for the garden, I would tell them what they could have. What I could do for that, but I'd want to go into that garden space and get a feel for what that person liked. Most of the time, it's someone sees work, goes, I love that, and I want it. And it's interesting because the times when people have they've bought several.
Oh wow!
It's almost like they can't stop. I can't choose which one, so they take a couple. Wow. And look, everything does go eventually, but I might have something for 5, 6, 7, 8 years before it finds, and that's okay because it's ultimately right now I'm sustainable, and that's fine. That's absolutely fine. And then, it's more about sharing. So I really look at it. People naturally say if you sold any work. But I'm really not up to that. They've been in the world for what would be 10 weeks.
Yeah, it's not a long time.
It's not a long time.
In the art world, it's not a long time.
And really, apart from that, it's just about sharing. So I figured too, once they're gone, they're not going to be in the world anymore. They're going to be within a closed space.
Interesting perspective on your art as well.
Yeah.
You share that story as long as it's available.
Yeah.
As long as it's meant to be shared.
That's right.
That's
right.
Wow.
That's right.
Wow.
So they go, like I was asked to be a keynote speaker at the International Women's Day art exhibition at the entrance.
Yeah.
So as part of that speaking, I took 3 of the works that I felt were so the resilience piece, Powerful Owl, and the being heard, because I felt they were they're like my props. Sorry, they're like my props. They're my girls that come with me to make that message. So, and once they've gone, that's gone. So I'd like them, like the My Power one. I would like her to be able to go to the women's health centres and for me to be able to give a talk.
So they're visual to many then, they're doing work.
Yeah, they actually do the work.
They do.
So yeah, I like that idea.
When did you start? When was the first time you had clay in your hands?
About 2005, 2006.
And you straight
into sculpture.
Wow. Because it's not. I don't know. I love clay. It's just like, wow, that's
even the
really special. Because you are not, as you shared, you're not a trained artist, like not formally trained. You're definitely trained, but
you're trained
exactly not formally.
Yeah.
So share with us, how did it happen? Like when did someone put clay in your hands?
Well, I actually my first teacher, Leslie Webber, who's also she's a lovely lady and beautiful artist. She'll have work at Five Lands Walk as well. So she was my first teacher, and what had happened, we went to the art gallery. Often they have, the Potter Society have an exhibition in the community studio there. We just wandered in, and there was a geisha lady that she'd created, Raku Fire, and it was a lovely piece, and I ended up buying it for my mum. And then I felt like I want to do that, and found out that Leslie was teaching at the Potter Society. So she basically did the job I do now.
No way.
So I just went, and I was still in my, I was still teaching, I was still counselling. It was a good escape for me. Monday nights just used to go religiously.
That was your life.
That was my thing. I just went and did that, and my work got bigger and bigger, and I had to stop going to, I couldn't do the work in the class because I just can't transport this stuff around. And Leslie's been so supportive. She came to my opening for my exhibition at Katoomba in March.
That was your first
very
exhibition?
first solo, yeah. So I've got another one June next year, 2020. Over the Winter Magic. It'll be actually the same time as Five Lands, but over the Winter Magic weekend.
Do you have anything for Five Lands here as well?
Yeah, I'm going to put the turtle and the whale
Isn't
piece.
That beautiful? Where you started, where it caught you, and it's returning.
Yeah.
And Five Lands is around the corner.
Yes, it's easy access. Yeah. And
is
people
it
know
2 weeks, 4 weeks of the month? 22nd of, when is it? Okay,
no,
a couple of weeks,
we'll
we'll share it.
2 weeks.
Yeah,
I think so. I've actually got the cockatoo in an exhibition at the moment with the Tukulin District Art Society. They invited me up there, which is, I would never have known about it, but they invited me because they invited me in to do a talk. So I like doing that. And the talk that I did for the I think it was the Entrance Art Society, was around the challenges of being an artist. So it's actually not focused on, it's my experiences, but the purpose is for encouraging others. And I really talked about the concept of focusing on aspiration rather than expectation. You aspire to do something rather than expecting to do something.
So what do you aspire to do?
It really changes from day to day. I don't know what my big picture is. I have no idea where this is going or what my path is. But the path, if you think about it metaphorically in terms of stepping stones, I can see very clearly about 5 stepping stones ahead of me. I have ideas for exhibitions, but that just never stops. It's crazy. I had someone ask me not long ago, what if you run out of ideas? It won't happen. It won't happen. I mean, I've got this.
I guess because you are aspiration focused and not expectation focused, because you still trust and you allow.
Yeah, and that is a challenge at
It
times.
is.
That
I
sounds
admire
very easy, and
Well,
it's not.
I so admire
Yeah.
you for that.
Scary.
It's very scary, and I do have meltdowns occasionally.
But yeah, you're human. That's
yes.
so good to know.
And I do freak out occasionally.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, I've learnt to just trust and not look any further than about 5 stepping stones ahead.
Well, I think you're being looked after.
That's right. That's
So,
right. So I'll just share with you quickly. So
Yeah.
I don't ever know whether these exhibitions will actually come into fruition. But like I said, I want to do that holy cow thing. Just
Yeah,
it's more for
that's
fun
fun.
than
Yes.
anything else. But I also have an idea for doing a whole exhibition around the Arctic and Antarctic animals and calling it Already Ghosts.
Oh.
And having the work pretty much white. Yeah, so, and they will,
That's very haunting
Oh,
in
very
ways and
haunting.
very real too. And
yeah. Yeah, so that's probably a few years
Yeah.
away. I think I need to get into a more, a different level with my artwork. What I've got in my head, I'm not there yet. And that's the patience that you have
That
to
is
be.
so beautiful.
Yeah,
That is
I'm not
so
good enough yet
powerful.
to do what I want to do. I will be, but I'm not there yet.
But you have that vision and you hold that vision and you know that the right pieces of work will cross your path
That's
to
right.
to train you.
That's right.
Like someone told me, it's not you are invited to build a house. The house will build itself anyways.
Yeah, that's right.
But you can learn from building that house.
That's right.
And that's quite wow.
That's right. So I'm not there yet with that. I want to do a series of works called Not Meant For. Again,
That's
like
interesting.
lions aren't meant to be in circuses. Rhinos aren't meant to be aphrodisiacs. You know,
Cows are meant
Your
to
sharks aren't meant to be whatever they make the fins out of, which I forgot.
Yeah.
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 It's and to actually look at the animals that we use and abuse. You know, so that's the thing. Like if you think about that list could go on.
I know.
So even if that one idea,
It leads to another idea.
it's infinite what you could do.
And you free that spirit with that. I just feel like you are talking about that pain point, but in raising that voice, you literally free that spirit in that animal.
Yeah, exactly. Give it a voice.
Yes.
And make the work hopefully beautiful. So it's not.
I bet
It's
it
not a
is.
horrible thing to look at. It's just raising awareness. So
Because you wanted to find homes as well. So it's
I want
really
people to want them
Yeah.
eventually. But it's just trying to bring all that together.
Well, they're powerful pieces. I think with the Five Lands Walk having the turtle and the whale present there, you're getting numerous people seeing it. And we all love turtles and whales, but to see it in that kind of light, a different way of perspective, it really enlightens a new way of feeling about in the environment and the animal. So I get this real power that this energy you're putting into this work is very powerful. Because it really, I don't know, when you say that even the names of your exhibition.
You straight get goosebumps.
Like I get goosebumps straight away, and that's powerful. When you have that intention, and it's obviously coming from an outer source, coming through you.
Yeah, that's what I feel. I don't feel like, when you say about deciding, I don't feel like I've decided anything. I feel like
You're a vehicle.
I am literally a vehicle.
Doing the work that's true.
Even that octopus on your head, which was kind of in that move away from the trauma work into this and really empowering you, like the work you've done before into where you are now.
Exactly. Just one thing leads to another, and I can't even keep up with my own self. Like people say, write it down. There's no actual point because they'll come around to it again anyway. I remember watching an interview with Dan Sultan, the musician, once, and he said he also, and that's why I thought I feel that way too. And George Giddos also has said in an interview that I watched with him that there's actually no choice. Dan Sultan sort of named that he felt like he was just a medium through which things came, the words just came. George Giddos, in his interview, I think it was with that one-to-one, he said something, and I won't quote them because I never remember everything, but he said something along the lines that he just has no choice. He has no choice. And it's very much like that. It's like, well, if I was to do anything else, I feel like I would die.
You would get sick.
Yeah,
And your body
it's
will
not
tell you,
right.
no, that's not your
Yeah,
path.
yeah,
Kenny, sweetheart,
Yeah.
you've seen that. Can you just keep going?
that's
And
right.
I will look after you.
That's right. So it's
Wow.
kind of not the decision. It's a no decision thing. The decision.
But you freely choose that path.
Yeah. Well, in a way.
In a way.
In a way. But if I didn't choose that path, if I didn't be on the path,
Yeah.
I would feel like I would be disintegrating and wouldn't be.
Yeah.
So it's almost like there is no choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then it also gives you all of these gifts.
That's right.
So it's a beautiful path to be on, I sense.
Yeah, it's a path that's clear now, but
Yeah.
I don't go into it without trepidation. I absolutely do.
Mm.
That is part of the challenge, I think, of being who I am, and also what I share with others, because I think we all experience trepidation. We all don't know, even people who think they do. They
don't,
they
really.
really don't. They just hang on to security, which I completely
Yeah,
understand.
but that's not the purpose.
But I'm existentially trained. My therapy was from an existential perspective, so I'm very philosophical, which helps so much. But in another way, you've got nothing to grab onto, and I often describe it like a magic carpet ride. You're
I
on.
love that, the
You
magic
sit-
carpet
yeah.
ride.
You sit tight, but there's nothing to hang on to.
Yeah.
You just
Yeah.
sit tight and you go where you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go with the flow
Yeah.
and trust.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what do you do when you need some downtime from that? It's such an intense work
Yeah.
for you. Is there any space that you go to on the coast that you like to visit to get some inspiration?
I have frequented. There's a reserve just not far.
Is it not Strickland?
No, Strickland. I can. They're behind me. Strickland is
Yeah.
behind me, and I've just the name of the mountain has just eluded me. But there's a lookout just on the ridgeway on the way to Bamboo Buddha,
Yeah.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I'll probably think of it in about 3
Yeah.
hours.
Yeah, that's
and,
good.
anyway, I like to go up
It'll
there.
remain your secret.
Mount
place.
Elliot.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'll go up there. There's a really
Yeah.
lovely lookout, but it's just you can go into the bush there. So I like to go there. I don't actually get a lot of downtime. I garden,
Yeah.
but that becomes
Yeah,
a
we
bit
could
of a
see
chore.
that.
Yeah, so I grow a lot of my own. Well, when I can, I grow a lot of my own vegetables and
Such a
food.
beautiful garden. It's not just decorative. It's really
No,
like edible.
definitely a working garden.
Yeah, it's a functional garden.
Yeah. I try and share it with I plant a mixture of things. So I encourage native animals and.
Yeah. That's true. There isn't even a big fence around it or anything.
No, well, there was a bandicoot. I mean, lots of people have actually reported bandicoots since
Bandicoots.
I brought it up, actually. But I was like, who's digging holes in my garden? And they're very deep holes, and I found the scat, and it was a bandicoot.
Oh,
So,
that's you. That's so beautiful to know this bandicoot.
yeah, and since I
didn't even
said
know
it,
what they are.
I didn't really have
Look it up.
bandicoots.
apparently they're making a comeback. So,
Good.
and I get that from a good source. I have a friend, Jackie Hunt, who works with Wildlife Arc. So it's interesting that the animal work has actually opened me relationships with people who care for the actual animals. And that was a gorgeous story because Jackie takes in baby tawny frogmouths, and she invited me to her place. And her place is like Jurassic Park in the aviaries. But I went in there and there was 7 little baby tawnies all looking like this.
They're so beautiful.
It was so cute, and the little one at the end was called Oscar, and it was new, and it was white and fluffy. And I asked Jackie if I could touch him. She says, "Like, yes, been handled." So, and he's just like, "Don't touch me." It was just so cute. And I've now got a really lovely relationship with Jackie. So if it's just, and she's brought them to class. She came and did my class.
Wow.
I actually brought one of the babies into class. It's good for my
Wow.
students because they get access
therapy, and it's a sort of a therapy as well.
and awareness.
Yeah.
Like people don't know, tawnies make a stupid nest.
I
And
know.
babies fall in all the
And
time.
that's why you've got to rescue these babies.
Yeah, I mean Jackie's take on that is that also that might be their population control.
Yeah.
Right, the fact that they build a stupid nest.
Some will survive.
When we go and save them all.
Yeah,
But we need to save them.
Yeah,
they're lovely, and so.
And we
So you've
should
got
have
this relationship with Jackie, and it's
Yeah,
continued. So you get to,
and others. There's got a reptile expert up the road
Yeah.
who's also brought snakes down. Last time I had a dinner party, he brought snakes.
Wow.
Nice one.
So it's like, welcome to our dinner parties.
There's snakes.
Yeah, and he's relocated diamond pythons here because I've got no fear with anything.
Yeah.
No, people
Not with
maybe,
animals,
but not with animals. Yeah.
Not with the work you do.
No,
They
spiders,
wouldn't.
snakes. They don't worry me.
Yeah.
It's not. Yeah. So anyway, so it's allowed for relationships with people who are very involved, and so it's there's that sharing.
And
Yeah,
you're a
experiences as
gateway
well.
of their message as well.
Yeah, exactly. It goes both ways.
Another way to look at abundance, I guess, as well. It's really this deep connection and meeting new, inspiring people as you create the work.
And they give me hope, and I give them hope. Like they think Jackie, I know, and when there's someone interested in what you're doing, you want to do it more.
Yes.
So if no one's interested, you lose heart. You can lose heart.
Yeah.
But when someone's interested and passionate, even if it's not exactly what you're doing, it feeds you. And it's the same. That's that cycle. And I think as human beings, when you show interest in anybody's anything, they come to life. And that's especially if you take interest in their authenticity and their truth.
Yeah.
That's what the spark is.
Yeah.
And that to me is the key. That's the key to relating to other people.
See them for who they truly are.
Yeah.
And allow them to just be.
Yeah, and shine as your
Exactly.
as your painter says.
So beautiful. It is so beautiful.
Yeah.
Wow.
Rachel, can I ask you a question? I'm really curious to find what's your vision for the Central Coast. I see you've got a big one for just the environment and communities, but for our community here, what's your vision?
Okay, well, I'm going to be completely honest, I've been fairly sceptical about the Central Coast for a long time, and I think because people, as I see it, there is a really strong undercurrent of people who are interested in the environment, in the arts, in culture, but it seemed to be, for me, for a long time, a minority. We all knew each other. That's, everyone knew, within all those little subcultures, everyone knew each other because it wasn't huge, but it was strong, and I would tap into that, and have tapped into that for a long time.
And that was across the Central Coast, because one of the things that we quite often hear that it's so disjointed. But in that undercurrent,
that connected from like Marmora down to the peninsula, up to up to Mangrove Mountain. There'd be that, and it was tight. It was tight, and it still is tight. But I feel like that undercurrent is growing. My vision is that I guess that the people that aren't part of that which is the majority, that maybe some awareness of what the preciousness of what we have. If you go up to Mount Elliot and have a look at that you see Erin Affair and you see those big scars on the landscape, but there is also a lot of bushland still left. And if we start pulling all that down, I just hope that people know how precious an environment we have, and those needs to get somewhere quicker or have something better, or the whole consumer, we're so consumer driven. And I think that's not just for the Central Coast. I think that's a worldwide, definitely Australia-wide, but it's very Western thinking that people get more aware of what they've got. So instead of looking at what they haven't got, what they have got. I know that's a really wishy-washy kind of way to say.
It's a beautiful way.
But yeah, that's what I would like. I would like for people to start really. I mean, they do. They go to the beach. They love it. We love the beach, but then they abuse it at the same time, and I just think that's a shame. It's more than a shame. That's a complete understatement.
And they don't like to walk barefoot and have their feet dirty. That's just nature, feeling the earth, feeling the sand.
We don't know what we've got till it's gone. And it would be a very huge shame if we lost it.
So the ideal vision would be that people on the Central Coast really wake up and really see what we have and really realize all the beauty. And I feel like you're definitely a spokesperson of the beauty we have.
Yes.
And the pressure that is like really how precious is it is to have it there.
And what you can do, people often ask me, well, what can I do? Well, just as simple as not asking for plastic, not having plastic straws, or there is so much that you can do that might not affect the extinction of the koala bears, but it affects things in the interim or on the way there, and it will have an impact. Not cutting down every tree just because it's there.
Yeah.
You know, I can't bear it when I see trees being cut down just because they're in the way or just because they're dropping leaves.
In the carry-on community, you know, I don't know if you know the carry-on community set up there. They stood with that because they had that road development with the roundabout, and they didn't want that. There was a tree, and they won. The tree didn't. So there is power in the voice.
Yeah. And there is power in our own. Like we looked into, like in our house, and we live in the treetops, and we looked into solar. And it's just not gonna happen because our north-facing roof has this beautiful yellow wood eucalyptus, and it's there.
Yeah.
And I love it, and it's the pathway of the possums to get onto our balcony. And I'm sorry,
and
I have to find other ways to reduce electricity.
It's really good.
That tree just needs to stay, and it's like every single person can make these decisions on their property. And again, so many people walk into our home and say, oh, if you would just cut down those trees, imagine those views. I'm like, I just go 2 level up and I have those views, and even if those trees are going higher, I can still look through the trees, and there's no reason for me to cut those trees.
If people started seeing tree as spirit,
that's exactly it.
Then they wouldn't want to cut them down.
No, just go there and give them a hug. Like seriously, when I'm in not a good place, I will sit next to that yellow bark tree, and it will hold me. So why would I cut down a family member? That holds me when I feel like that. Exactly to that point. Just really start connecting to these. To the plants that we have, like the nature that we have around our home, and just start there.
Without them, we're not here.
No, exactly. And the other thing that we just have in Umaina Beach, like the new shade trees that are now planted everywhere on the peninsula. Again, there are so many beautiful projects that are sparking. Take 3 for the ocean. All these little things that every person can do.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's the more I think, you know,
it's just
about it, I think, oh, you could do this, you could do that.
Reducing community gardens, like open up if you've got food, allow your neighbours to come in and pick the food, or have little community swaps amongst your neighbours.
Yeah, you just gave me all those beautiful oranges, and I celebrated every single one of them.
And how special. I mean, I do similar things. I mean, even my neighbours, I've planted rosemary right on her fence line.
So they can come
so she can...
You would be my favourite neighbour.
And, you know, I have chickens as well, so their eggs get shared. And it's actually interesting when you've got a garden, a vegetable garden on the front of your yard, people walk past and stop. And the amount of community connection in the street, which isn't huge, but that's happened as a result of me being out there in my overalls and gumboots. People stop and they have a chat.
Because we tend to live indoors so much these days, and having a garden brings you out and brings others in the community out. Because you used to be able to talk over the fence. We used to be in the garden working, but now we're out working in offices. We're not working in our gardens, we're working in the office. So we're not having this beautiful relationship with our neighbours.
And having that vegetable garden in the front
That's a great
is
idea.
absolutely phenomenal.
We should start a front yard veggie garden project.
Yeah, please, and I'm happy to help everybody because I don't have a front yard.
Well, the idea is it's an old idea.
It is?
These things, none of this is new. And when having come from, like I said way earlier in our interview, the agricultural background, permaculture just came into play. There's a lot of and I'm not anti-zoning, but it's just like, is it a permaculture garden? I'm like, well,
is it
really? It's not zoned. It's not. It's actually a true cottage garden, in the sense that peasants would plant flowers amongst vegetables, amongst herbs, and they wanted the wildlife because it was an integrative system. They
look
wanted,
in nature.
That's right.
I mean, it's not. Sorry, this little area is not zoned for kangaroos, and you just have to go around it. I'm sorry, but hang on, I'm part of this.
exactly. And they can't go to the supermarket.
No, exactly.
So it's like, well, they don't really have a huge amount of choice. You know, when people get their trees raided, I know, funny, I mean, a lot of people would not like this, but I planted sunflowers, which was like a major mistake. Well, maybe not. The year before last, I planted sunflowers and corn, and I do that for shade in the summertime for my smaller vegetables and plants. And the sunflowers came out, and I had no kidding, probably 20 to 30 white cockatoos in that garden.
Wow.
Decimating the whole entire lot. They were having the best time. And not only were they decimating, beheading the sunflowers, but in order to get to the sunflowers, they were on the corn and they were all bent. So by the time they left, it literally had looked like a tornado had gone through. But they were so hilarious, and they're all there. I've got photos of them lined up.
You just watched it.
What could you do?
Yeah.
It's like, if I chase them away, they'll come back, and it's just like, this is hilarious. And they are so fun. They're naughty, and they do take other birds' houses, but they are hilarious. And
well, we nearly got bowled over. We're driving.
We did.
In my own whole swamp. I was like ducking because the car couldn't duck.
Yeah. We've got a big flock here, They must live up the back in the Strickland State Forest.
How dare you.
Yeah, they're just so naughty. And they do,
They've
they come
waited
around here all the time.
them to actually grow, and now it's time.
Not only grow, to flower.
Yeah.
Like
That's it,
and it was
exactly.
the day.
That day. So
They
you didn't ever
flowered.
get a child.
No, nothing. And they just crack me up, and it's like, well, and it would be so easy to get upset by that.
Yeah.
But this is we're in their space.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they're just like, oh, thank you very much. Just same with the little tiny ants when I sow lettuce seeds, and then I see these little tiny ants soldier off with my lettuce seeds. I'm like, this really weren't meant for you, but okay, all right.
And I just put more on there.
Yeah, or plant them in a planter box first.
Exactly. So they get a chance.
Exactly.
But when you see it in that perspective, it's such a beautiful thing that you can cohabitate with animals. You know?
That's right. And I did find the other day for the first time, I found shells before, but I've never found a living native snail in my garden.
Wow.
So I was pretty excited when I found it, because they've got a very flat shell. They're not round like the European snails.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, my dad over in Europe would love to share with you because he has so many snails in his
Well, that's the thing. I get a lot of snails too, and I think bloody snails, blah, blah, blah. But now it's like, if I want to get rid of them, I'm going to have to hand pick them and give them to the chickens. Or well, you're supposed to do that. But
but it's good for the
exactly. It's just like, well, because I get overrun with snails too. But and I was using a environmentally friendly snail sort of deterrent, but now I found that living. Native one, I don't want to. It's like,
just got to do the hand.
Just do the hand thing.
Is there a particular plant that you can put in that the snails will go to and they'll hang around that?
Apparently not really. They kind of just, they're a bit ravenous. So there are little things you can put sawdust around things, but I find everything helps, but nothing solves the problem completely. It's just a matter of actually looking at it from an attitude of the. This isn't all about me.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what you do with your art. It's not you. You're working through something that's greater than you. So beautiful.
Yeah,
thank
you.
But I think we have to end. Have we reached our time?
Thank you so much.
Thank you
and it's
so
a
much.
really
It's
beautiful
a
way to end it. It's just like, thank you. Like really, really deep felt gratitude for the work you're doing for women, for animals, for nature, for artists, just entrusting in your journey. It's an absolute privilege to be here.
Well, thank
to
you.
meet you.
Yeah, I feel privileged that you asked me. So, I would describe myself as an eco artist and a feminist, an eco feminist, and I just feel very privileged to be able to share that. So, I'm
thank
grateful.
you for doing that.
Yes,
because you really impacted on all of us. With your art at Bamboo Buddha. When we saw that, it was just
we
very
still
special.
carry that postcard with us. And
Well,
also
beautiful.
a big thank you to the photographer who took the photos.
Yeah,
of
so that's
that
I'll just plug in. That's Brett Page Photography.
One question: if someone wants to start working with you,
Mm-hmm.
where can they do a workshop with you?
if they wanted to do a workshop, it's at the Central Coast Potters Society.
Yeah.
There's an 8-week term every term on a
Oh,
Friday,
wow.
a Friday morning. Unfortunately, it's in a working day, but
It attracts
yeah,
the right people.
it's the right start. Yeah, exactly. I have done private
Okay.
work here. Not,
Yeah.
I wouldn't call it a workshop. It's been people who are already working and want to
Next level.
enhance.
Yeah.
I don't have firing facilities here,
Yeah.
so but you can find firing facilities,
Yeah.
and I can help with that. But
Yeah.
so if they want to, and anyone can do it. People come in and they haven't touched clay or they say they're not creative. I can work it. I'll find a way.
You find their creative.
I absolutely will, absolutely.
Yeah.
So no one's gone away without a smile on their face.
That is another really, like if
Yeah.
somebody is feeling their call to do something creatively, or if someone feels stuck wherever they are, creativity can always help.
Yeah,
And working with someone who knows and trusts their own creative
yeah.
lineage, it's such a beautiful thing. So
Yeah.
and your work will be at the Five Lands Walk, will
Yeah.
be in Katoomba, is in Katoomba
Yeah, there's
anyway.
6 pieces up there.
So and just
Yeah.
be it on your head on Facebook.
Be It On My Head by Rachel, sculptures by Rachel Bunney. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Thank you so
much.
much.
Have a beautiful day, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.